This is the Keller Chronicles, Cook with Your Heart. Stories, lessons, and flavors from Chef Duane Keller, a chef who has spent 5 decades cooking for presidents, royalty, and people just like you.
Welcome to the Keller Chronicles, and I have a very, very awesome chef, president of Charlie Baggs Culinary Innovation, Chef Charlie. You received the 2024 Research Chefs Association Lifetime Achievement Award, which is amazing. You've inspired me for decades, and Chicago is a great town known for a lot of things, but it's really known for food. So being a chef in Chicago, and you're such a busy guy, we finally got you on the show.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Chef Duane Keller. It's going to be another beautiful day, and I look forward to sharing with you what I can.
It's cold. I think you sent down some of the cold weather down to Georgia here.
Yeah, it's snowing here. And, in the city, it doesn't usually stick too much, but it is accumulating. I was in Scottsdale yesterday, and it was 82, so a little change.
Beautiful. Chef, the world is continually changing and at a rapid pace, and your background of education and being a culinary instructor and teaching food scientists about research and development, and this is such a pivotal time for the culinary arts, and that's why I wanted you to be on and share some of your what you're seeing and what you're doing to help others. Product development, leadership development, everything you're doing is so important to helping others. So please just take a moment, tell us about your career and your company.
Well, thank you. Well, back in 1999, I was in a situation where I was able to start a company, a consulting company. In 1984, I was in the library at Purdue studying something, and I came across this book about home offices. And I read it, and I said, oh, a consultant has a home office. I loved that idea then, and I knew someday I would be a consultant and have a home office. So here we are today. I'm working out of my home. So my vision's always been to be very knowledgeable about something specific and to help share that with others by solving problems, building communities. I've had 25 interns come through our kitchen, something I'm really proud of. And, every one of them, you hope that they, it helps them grow and get to the next stage. And quite often I like to help them understand where their passions truly lie and what skills they have relative to them, so they can develop a concrete plan to meet their objectives. At the beginning, I worked by myself and decided that I really like having a team. I was a baseball player and football and basketball, and I really like to operate with a team. So now I have chefs and scientists and marketing in my company. So we take products with these skill sets, and very specifically, I've hired people to dial in what my objectives are with the company. So, we go from a concept and creating an ideation. Maybe an ideation might be just a group of chefs sitting around talking about something, and we get in the kitchen and we experiment. It could be the leadership team of a large global organization with supply chain and marketing, and maybe the president or CEO and some scientists, and we get together and do ideations. And bringing a large group of people together allows you to look at the idea very holistically, making sure you consider how it affects everybody in the company. But with that being said, you don't let that stifle you, because we're talking about innovation. And but from there, the chefs will create kind of a gold standard product for whatever we're working on. And the gold standard product is meant to create kind of a pinnacle for what you're trying to do when you're commercializing a product. So if you're doing like a tomato soup, you want it to be this good. It tastes great and it's craveable. So then what we'll do is we'll measure. We have a bunch of we can do analytical chemistry, and I can measure the pH. I can measure the type of fat, salt, the bricks, the color. And that allows me to understand those are the parameters that I have to manage through the commercialization process. And then it kind of gets a little more technical there. That's when the scientists come in and we're choosing ingredients that are commercially available, could be from anywhere in the world. And now we're combining products with really a different format to come together to still taste excellent. Most often clean label, very natural, the less ingredients, the better. If your grandma wouldn't have used the ingredient, it shouldn't be on the label philosophy. It still kind of sticks in some ways. So that's our innovation division. And then we have a chain account penetration and planning division we call CAP. And I use a lot of acronyms internally. And the CAP program is to help manufacturers develop relationships with chains and really create solutions. So we have quite a process that I've defined of the information that I need when I go into a chain to be valuable. We don't want to waste anybody's time. So I need to understand about pricing. I need to understand supply chain. What are the challenges? What are the marketing objectives? What calendars are they working on? And then maybe the culinary or product development team. What are things that they really aspire to do, and what are some of their goals? And when you take a holistic approach, you tend to go in and everybody knows you've kind of got their back and you're here to make them better when whatever the objective is. And so that's a really interesting division. And sometimes we work directly with the chains. They will hire us to do very specific things with very non-biased approach. And other times we'll come in with a manufacturer or sponsor. And then the division I'm really excited about is the education division, but in education, I've flown down to a university or a research facility in Florida, and they had a cafeteria for about 30 people, and they wanted me to help them dial it in a little bit. So that was a really small project, but they really did need a chef to do it. So I worked with their team. I got to know their team. I went to a barbecue at their house to really get to know them. And then I designed a product that would be sustainable for them. I've been like the global corporate chef for Gerber Baby Foods, where I've flown around the world designing formulas for baby food. And, at a time in China, they were looking to purchase a factory and wanted to test it out. So I helped design the formulas for that and worked with process engineers. And the reason why I mention that is that one of the things I can teach chefs is that with your skill sets, I can help you understand the technical part. You have new ingredients. You don't need to know how to pronounce them. You don't need to know how to spell them. You need to know how they make things taste and how they affect the craveability of a specific product. So, that's kind of in a nutshell what my company has been doing. Those are the same principles that I operated with back in 1999. My business plan hasn't changed a whole lot. Now I do have a pretty nice facility in Chicago. So my wife owns a events company called Chicago Chef's Table, and we're probably her biggest client. So all of our events in our kitchen, Chicago Chef's Table manages front of the house. So my chefs can stay focused being chefs. And we do a lot of presenting internally. And it's almost like preparing a meal for someone, a similar type of mise en place and preparation. But yeah, it's really nice having a Chicago Chef's Table run front of the house, and the chefs can stay focused on the food. And one of the things we do in the consulting company is just try to be as efficient as we can. And it's not just about making more money or being more profitable. It's about doing the best we can do. Let's not be wasteful. I still do a lot of philanthropic, dinners and things like this. The only way you can afford to do things like that is if you're efficient in other parts of your world, kind of like you do, chef. You really spread the world and build communities. And some chefs are like this. And that's one of the reasons why I was so proud to get on this show with you is as we build a relationship, I'm sure we're going to try to shape some other people and help.
Well, you mentioned many things dear to my heart, and one is family, and cooking from the heart, and what I love your mission statement. educating the next generation. For 6 years at the Illinois Institute of Technology, teaching is giving back, and being a chef is sharing what we know. And it just comes down to, how great of a career have you had. It's just incredible to be able to give back like this. The Charlie Baggs Culinary Innovation Company in Chicago, it was tough to get you on the show, and I really appreciate your time. I've got so many things to ask you. Is Chase gonna join us?
I don't. I didn't ask Chase to join us today, but Chase is my youngest son, and his name is Charles Frederick Baggs III. We didn't want him to be called Junior, so we gave him a stage name of Chase. But now he won't be joining us today. I'm sorry if I was supposed to coordinate that.
No, that's okay. Next time.
Yeah, it'd be good to get him on. He comes from the other generation, and what. So Chase Baggs he comes from a different generation, and he's really instrumental in our company. And but thanks for mentioning.
Yeah, the younger generation are wow. I mean, I guess we were young at one time. I say I'm only halfway there. So this year it's going to be 50 years in kitchens for me. So I'm only halfway there, but you've inspired me for so long. I have so many notes here, and if you aren't following Chef on LinkedIn, please do. He has just great posts. I love the kids at Dairy Queen. Just happiness, making people happy is really how blessed are we just to be able to do that, making people's day. It's incredible.
Yeah, when I stayed with my cousin in Scottsdale, and those were her children in that Dairy Queen shot. But, she's very busy, and I keep telling her I want to teach her to cook. So I finally convinced her to let me show her how to make beef stew. And then we made this, I showed her how to make a chicken mashed potato and broccoli and cheese casserole. Her kids love that. And then I showed her my Italian beef recipe. And they used the broth from the Italian beef recipe and chopped the meat up and made ramen for the little kids. So it was really cool to teach her how to make some new things. And the Italian beef was almost like making a beef stock. The kids really liked the flavor. So that was really gratifying. Thanks for mentioning that. Because, we all work hard. And almost in every case, it's so we can take care of our families. That is the objective at the end of the day. And we all have different levels of responsibility. And that's what drives me for sure. But I also like to see my staff doing really well and being happy and having a company that has a good culture, teams that have the tools that they need. And post-pandemic, Chef, it was tough. I think there's probably 20 new consulting companies, post-pandemic. It didn't really faze me too much because I've been dodging bullets for 26 years. It feels like, trying to adjust the company as needed as things change. But I told my team, I said, the best thing that we can do is try to be the best. That's going to give us the biggest heads up in our competition because we're very senior level and they're extremely knowledgeable. So we have to be disciplined and follow processes that drive efficiency. And we have to give value to our customers and our clients and continue to help them build. A big part of it, which is something I think chefs should always think about, is being a chef is kind of being in sales. Some chefs say, oh, I don't want to be in sales. I kind of get that because I do, but to be successful, you have even selling your ideas internally means you're in sales. It's a skill set that's good to have. If you're working for any company and you can help them bring more business in, it makes the company more sustainable and it makes it better for everybody. So we've had some great transition this way.
Yeah, the sales aspect is, Yeah, it's getting people confident in what you do, and cooking from the heart is the easiest way because you prepare a dish and you let them
Yeah.
enjoy it, and you have a natural, quick response of, this is
Yeah.
great, and you win them over. There's other things when you're so you have this great broad, focus and mission, it takes a long time, but you have an incredible just company and reputation that, can you tell us what products that you're working on now, developing? Or I saw you had Scrapple in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I grew up in Pennsylvania, and my dad, asked me one time. He said, "You want to open a restaurant?" I said, "No, not in Pennsylvania." But Pennsylvania's really changed since then. So
Yeah. Well, one kid went to school in Pittsburgh, so we did a lot of experimenting there. When I went there, in all honesty, I would stay with my son, and I would tell his roommates, "I'm gonna, instead of spending a few $100s on a hotel room, I'm gonna fill your refrigerator." So I'd buy big steaks. I made all kinds of stuff for him. Uh, yeah. So yeah, the Scrapple, wherever I go. So years ago, my niece used to collect American regional trends for me. And what I had her do is go to like 6 cities around the world. And when their food section came out, cut and paste those recipes into a document and then consolidate them all for me. And then give me a basic overview of what we've seen. And that's how I first started studying American regional trends. And then to follow up on that, you really got to travel and taste things. And what I learned about Scrapple is that there can be a textural issue because the inside's kind of mushy. The outside being really crisp is really important. Some people said that they like to have like an over easy egg with it. They mix it together, kind of like you do with hash browns. And yeah, I thought it was acquired taste, but if you're a person that likes liver or blood sausage, things heading in that direction, I think it's a great product. It probably has a lot of nutrients in it. So imagine iron and a few other things. So we study American regional trends, and one of the educational classes that we teach really are American regional trends. And particularly for people that have moved here from somewhere else in the world, they probably don't understand how complex American regional trends are in the US. Then we combine that with teaching the 12 cooking techniques. Exponentially, you can put those two together, and it can be a very dynamic class, and it can be very tuned into whatever your manufacturing process can create. But as you know, education, when you see the light bulbs going off when you're teaching people, it is so gratifying, and it definitely keeps you coming back. When I taught at Purdue University, that was back in the year 2000, and that was culinary arts for food scientists. And that was the first culinary class for food scientists that Phil Nelson, which was a legendary food scientist, the department head, he created the class. After meeting me, he said, our students need to learn. So we initially taught that class out of a pilot plant, and I had a two burner like stove, and the oven was about 2 blocks away in the basement. But we used to have to use our Nokia phones to like walkie-talkie. The chefs would go check the chicken. I'm like, well, what color is it? Check the temperature while I'm in class. So it was a little challenging teaching the cooking techniques because I didn't have any equipment at the beginning. But I said, I'll stick with you. And then ironically, across the street at Purdue is where I went to school, in the hospitality school. And I knew that the nutrition department had this kitchen with 10 different cooking stations. So we made a deal that their students could take my class and we would be able to use the kitchen. So I taught there for it was probably about 11 years after the pilot plant. So I had 20 students for 13 years. So there's about 260 of my students out there. Sometimes I bump into them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I bet that's so awesome. What year do you think Farm to Table started in the U.S.?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because our clients, we really focus on agricultural clients. Like Lippman Family Farms grows a tremendous number of tomatoes. They almost can supply the industry with tomatoes. They have large processing facilities around the country. So I've been to the vault where their tomato seeds are. So in a lot of ways, we're a seed to fork consulting company. I like to know where products come from. So, and the reason why I mentioned that, because that's not really the question you asked me. You were referring more to restaurants, probably. The restaurants, I probably couldn't tell you the exact year, but as long as I've been cooking, it's been important to chefs where they get their food. And I've never, ever met a chef at any age, anywhere in the world, that didn't like to go to a market and pick out their own food. So I think since the beginning of time, it's been a farm to fork perspective. Now, when did it become a trend and when did it become more relevant as a marketing tool is probably the question. And I don't really know the exact year, but it seems like, I'm such a future looking person. I don't look back very often. And I don't know.
That's a perfect answer. I relate to it. I love how you put it. It's if you're a true chef and because you care about what you do, it's always been that way. R&D, you're a master at R&D, branding, food scientists, flavor composition,
Well, R&D chef is interesting because, the way a lab is run by food scientists and then the way a kitchen is run by chefs. When you combine those two and develop efficiencies on both sides, scientists are precise and they're going to measure ingredients every time. Chefs might just want to start throwing ingredients in. But when it's time for a chef to go to work and bang out their mise en place, if they've worked in nice restaurants and the chef's like, come on, guys, let's go. They know what that means. You do that to your scientists and they might not understand what you're saying because it's not part of their education process. So I try to teach my scientists that there's times like, let's go. We got to kick it up to the next level. And it's kind of exciting, to build that passion and intensity. And I think that's why chefs, you get a little bit of adrenaline from it. And, you're working as a team and you got each other's back. And that feels really good. But then, the chefs often need discipline and do things every time the same way. And when you're testing, you need to have be more process driven. So when I pick, all my chefs come from high-end culinary. They all have experience in, very fine dining restaurants. Now, like Peninsula and the Ritz on the hotel side, and then the Alinea Group in Chicago are two of my chefs. And they just have such a tremendous respect for food, and they know so much about, building really interesting dishes and combined flavors. So the reason why I choose them is because their knowledge of flavor and food, it's a specialty. And I can teach them the science part. The science is very objective and there's processes. So you have to learn those processes and you have to learn about ingredients. And it takes at least a year for a chef to come in and even know what Charlie Baggs Culinary Innovations is capable of doing. We have so many capabilities, which is great. I've been at this since 1984. So, when you study for a long time and, you just tend to continue to learn and develop. And then when you add more people to your team, exponentially, like 1 + 1 should equal 3 if you're doing things right. And we place a tremendous amount of effort into making sure that we're staffed properly and that the team feels like they've got each other's back. It feels like a whole. And, so it's usually like 6 to 8 people. Sometimes I'll go up to 12 to 15 people, but, at this level, we can attack almost any size project. And good to note is I have freelancers all over the world and people that love to do some, freelance work for me. And it could be a baker in France that's helping me with a formula of an English muffin that we want to have a specific flavor. the scope of the project could be really anything. And then when you run a consulting company, basically what you're doing is you become a producer. After you get to the point where you're not doing all the work on the bench, then it's almost like you're a producer, because there's a very clear scope of what the objective is, and you got to put the right tools together to make sure that you can deliver the best quality for the customer, have the best, customer satisfaction, and manage cost control. You always have to have those three things. Yeah.
Yeah. And, being an art and a science, the culinary arts, the science part of it is so important because the number one goal is to be consistent. I think a lot of chefs, lean towards the art side and are very creative, but maybe struggle with the consistency. And what science, helps us with is, when you mentioned measuring, I'm not a pastry chef. I have, 6 or 8 desserts that are like killer. And I have those on my menu wherever I go. But I just don't like measuring much. But measuring is still important because it is the end result. It needs to be consistent because all your guests are, expecting to come back in and enjoy the same thing that they had before. So the art and the science of what we do as chefs, that consistency is number one. Just really just do or die.
Well, the things I look for in a chef, number one, you have to be kind. I've experienced managing people that weren't kind, and that just does not work for me. I just don't. It's not how I'm going to run my company, and and then you have to be smart, and you have to try your best. And I don't care if you make a mistake once, don't make it again. Just always try your best. And as long as I feel confident with that, I'm not a micromanager. I don't want to micromanage anyone. I want people to think and figure out how to do things. And sometimes I give people tasks, and it's my way of testing them to see how much they can do on their own, which is what a consultant really does. And sometimes different types of people might want me to explain things to them in detail. They usually end up working for someone else because they're trying to change me instead of learning from me. And that's an important lesson in life. And it's not about my ego. It's just, I do what I do. And it's how you work together with different people. Now you do have to make accommodations to, and consider how different people learn and things like this. But, this year, I was just thinking before I got on this, I wasn't sure what you're going to ask me, but this year our focus, number one, is being kind. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
The second one is collaboration. Collaboration to me is the new innovation. And so it's really to be a good collaborator, you have to be a great listener, and you have to have good communication skills. So if you've got a call with somebody and you just need to talk for a few minutes, just make it a phone call instead of a Teams call, because people have to prepare differently when you're on video, or you get on a video and they don't show themselves. Just make it a phone call. That's a simple example, but let's just be thoughtful in everything that we do to try. Well, the side of business that you're in, having members and everybody has different tastes. They've had chefs in the past that used to do this really well, and they're wondering what you're going to do. How do you go into an environment like that and assess what the members need?
Great question. So a lot of the staff were worried when I introduced the new menu because it was basically a foundation to where we're going to go. But I structure the menu in a way that, I have this, friends that eat together, stay together section where it's all just shareable food and, classics and,
I love that.
All the season, we're going to change the menu every 3 months. So 3 months goes by really quick. So all the cooks were like, well, what if they want to order this? I said, well, it's not on the menu. And everybody was really worried. And I said, don't worry. they're gonna love it. And we rolled out a menu on October 1st. It was a complete change, and even I'm surprised that we didn't get one request for anything different or old that was from the old menu.
Yeah.
And we're 85% over prior year. So I say that's pretty darn good. Thank you guys. Good job just reproducing what because
Yeah.
I went into this club just on a vibe. I sat there in the front step and felt like I was at the Ashby Inn. It turns out that it's actual hunt country in Georgia, and that's where I came from. For 2 decades, I was up in hunt country in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia. So I just got this feeling, like good feeling. And I was like, yeah, I'll come in and show you what we can do. And when I say what we can do, I mean it. I don't do it all. I'm a very humble guy. I set people up for success. But I took out a pad of paper, and when I say cook from your heart, that's what I did. And I just went into the kitchen and put together a menu. There's, I don't know, 25 items on it. And I wrote the recipes as I was putting them together. And
That's awesome. Yeah.
I don't usually do that, but I cook from the heart all the time because I care about what I do. But I don't usually not utilize what I have on my external hard drive, which I have like 90,000 documents, whether they're checklists or I just went in, cook with the heart, and not one member, they're thrilled. They're just, maple walnut creme brulee. They're just like, what is that? And then they try it. There's like, it's flying out. All the food that we did for our opening menu, I'm very happy where we're at after 2 months or 1 month and 1 week.
Yeah.
Very happy.
Well, I hope I can come down sometime. And, in the chef's world, we call it staging. I really enjoy going into different kitchens, and you'd always be welcome in mine. Mine's has usually 6 people in it. That's 4,200 square feet. So we have 800 square foot per person. It's a
It's big.
pretty relaxed place. It's very quiet. This current staff likes it quiet. I've had other staff that like a little rock and roll in the background. So it's really up to them, but it's a great kitchen. We have a really nice view of downtown Chicago, which is quite inspirational, because if you can make one of those buildings stand straight like that for 100 years, we can do anything.
Yeah.
It gives you inspiration. And, it's part of the objective of why we moved to this location on Goose Island. Most of the certified master chefs seem to come from country clubs, because you can go into work and practice whatever you want. And you probably have an outlet for it. If you want to do terrines or charcuterie I helped in a couple of country clubs over the years, but that's an area that I wish I would have spent more time in, or an area that I really value anyways.
Yeah. Golf Kitchen did a big article on country clubs versus hotels versus restaurants. And I was part of that. And Diana is outstanding in collaborating. She really is pulling all the best clubs together in the country into Golf Kitchen. Basically said that, we just have more resources. We have, hotels, great, because you got the room rent, revenue. And I was in hotels in the 80s, and very fine hotels. And after I opened Gaylord National in 2009, I said I'd never work in a hotel again. But I loved it. It was 6 restaurants that, we had, and we did 110 million that year. And, but, hotels, you're expected to be there at 5 in the morning, and you leave around 10 at night. And it allowed no time for family or any quality of life. I love what I do, but that's a tough schedule.
Well,
But
the industry is going to we'll have to change that way, because we know that, but that affects profitability, and it's tough.
It's tough
people have been
times.
so spoiled having great food from all over the world, wherever they want to. Like I live in Lincoln Park in Chicago. There's 15 restaurants on my street, from Hawaiian to South Korean. At the end is actually a McDonald's about half block away. And then there's a Papa John's. There's Wiener Circle is across the street from me, which, but how do you keep that part of the city going, man? It's tough. And how does everybody make money? Because an owner can't just keep raising and paying people more to satisfy them without increasing their prices. And that, I don't know how we got here, because everything's so expensive. So people need to make more. It just doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. It just keeps inching its way up. So, well,
that leads me to the next question. COVID, I mean, it affected, it closed 100,000 restaurants in the US. And I think what you're talking about is, I think in the last 5 years, that's a very short time in what we've been doing. But I think it's the most impact out of I've seen in, and I'll be 50 years in the kitchen now. So, COVID was really tough, and inflation, buying the beef market is tough, and the vegetables cost as much as proteins. And, if you aren't good at math, you probably shouldn't be a chef. And if you aren't you don't have great diligence or great
work ethic.
If you can't stomach the seriousness of what it is to manage food, because now it's higher than ever, you have to go back to the science. You got to go to specs, and you got to, every ounce counts, and you got to, spatula is your best friend. You got so many things in the kitchen that either help you or hurt you. And I always say, just do the right things right. And there's about 1,000 different things that we do that add or take away from our P&L, which is important, because the only reason you want to be profitable is so that you can give back. You can reinvest into what you're doing. And that is most apparent in clubs, because you have more resources. So I always run a tight ship and do the right things right. That way I can give back and just keep adding to the menu and wowing our members,
Yeah, teaching your staff the fundamentals and keep building on them.
Yeah.
Will your members accept foie gras? Do you have that on any menu?
No.
So I have the classic French in me cooking. My wife, that's her favorite thing. So I always end up putting it on menus.
Yeah, me too. I love all that beef marrow and everything. We just have to educate them. We're starting, like you said, with the foundations, and we'll get a little more creative and a little more adventurous as we go down the road. But this is a great time in your career, in my career as chefs, that we can give back and help others. I wanted to really thank you for being on the show. I know you're super busy, and next time you come on, and make sure you bring your son. Tell us a little bit about Chase.
Chase, since he was our first child, the second child came around a 3 years later. So he did a lot of traveling with me from the beginning, and particularly with Gerber, I traveled spent about 6 months in Mexico. So even when we go into the attorney's office, when he was like 4 years old, he raises his hand and the attorney says, Chase, he goes, this is really important, and I just want to make sure you work really hard for my family. So, he was an entrepreneur from the beginning, but, he was working for other companies, training after he graduated from college, and he developed some great skills. And he worked for a really good company called Fuda, that helps a lot of people in the city bring food to them from restaurants. It kind of is like a virtual cafe, but it can be different every day. And it was such a great company with just awesome culture. So he brought that to our company, a real focus on culture. And I think he's helped make a change there. he realizes that, I built a brand over these years, and now it's his job to maintain this brand and to make it better. So I'm really open-minded to make doing things we do better than we ever have. In some cases, we can do that. Yeah, so he's really passionate about it. And to work for my company, you have to be passionate about what we do. You have to want to be the best in the world, and you have to want to drive the economic engine. And, those are three principles that I run the company on. Our clients fall in that same category. I wouldn't work for someone just for money. They have to be passionate and want to be the best at whatever they are. So that's called the hedgehog model from the book Good to Great. Some people probably recognize. I think he's got a good balance in his life. He exercises every day at a specific time, and man, when he's at work, he's just very disciplined. He's very efficient. But he's recognized that going in on Saturdays to the office is really nice and relaxing. So yes, he is one of those 5.5 days, 6 day a week. As a chef, I always had a 5.5 day. If you weren't organized enough, you couldn't leave that half day because your kitchen wasn't running properly. So you had to stay until you could get your kitchen running efficiently. So, well, Chef, I really appreciate the time, and anything else I can do. Some other things that I do to help our community out is really just exposure to mental health and kind of drug abuse. I quit drinking alcohol, and I wasn't a classic alcoholic. It just wasn't the best example for my kids. I didn't know how to do it. So I went to therapy, which I never thought I'd have to go to therapy. Outpatient rehab I went to for 3 weeks. You know what? I did it. Just cold turkey one day. I just did it.
Good for you.
It's been 15 plus years. And the biggest thing is I've saved so much money for my family. I'm trying to put kids through school. Like anything helps, but it definitely makes me feel better too. So I have a lot of things like you I'm passionate about. And if we can help inspire more people, I'd like to try to do that.
And time, all the extra time you have with your family is, you have so much more time. I mean, I don't know how, I don't even drink. I occasionally I'd like a beer, if I was watching the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
They should play that Game 7 over again. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
that was, there's some questionable calls there, but no, love having you on. Wherever you go, there you are. This is Chef Charlie Baggs of the Baggs Culinary Innovation Company out of Chicago. Thank you for being on Keller Chronicles, and we're going to have you on again this next time you bring Chase with you, okay?
We will. And thank you so much.
Good to see you, sir.
All right, bye.
All right.
Thank you for being part of the Keller Chronicles. Cook with your heart. Join us in the hospitality mixes to keep the conversation going. And until next time, remember, every meal is a chance to share love, and every day is a chance to make a difference.